Welcome to another edition of Your Daily Five. I'm your co-host, John Colucci. Johnny Scan with me today, Professor Bruce Fraser. Professor, how are you?
Oh my gosh, I'm great. And John is broadcasting from a remote location. He sounds a little different today, but he's got a great episode for us. So show us the way, John.
Absolutely. We've got a very, very interesting analysis. Quiet times with the ATR. We're going to take a look at a volatility indicator, the ATR. We're going to see how that interacts with volume and one of Professor Bruce's favorites, relative strength. So get things started. We have a little bit of information from StocKCharts on the ATR. That's our next slide up. And that just tells us a little bit about the background. Another great analytical tool from Wells Wilder. Different methods of calculation, things of that nature. Our next slide shows us graphically how a few of these things occur. There could be different types of calculations depending on what happens. But we're going to use this concept of range, true range, and average it over time for ATR. Going to combine that with a volume measure and relative strength. So that gets us to our scanning workbench slide. And here we have groups: Dow 30, S&P 500, NASDAQ, NDX, S&P 400. So we have approximately 1,000 candidates that we're polling. We're looking for an ATR over 3 periods that's significantly less than its 20-period counterpart, 0.75. We're adding a mathematical function to take 3/4 of the ATR 20, and we're less than that. We're also going to look at the SMA of volume over 10 periods, and that needs to be less than 75% of its bigger brother, SMA 20, on the volume. Going to look at percent relative over a calendar quarter, 63 periods, and we want the relative strength to be up, percent relative there. Optional language you can take a look at is rate of change 5 period. Would we want to have that in? Do we need that? All questions you can consider, and simply take out the slash marks, and you get to try that within your own scanning effort. So we're going to echo a scan term here, the percent relative. That's going to be our ranking. So we're going to rank by percent relative. The strongest first will be the profile that we're going to get. If we look at our results page, we have only 19 matching results out of almost 1,000 stocks, potential stock candidates, only 19. We do see that our percent relative on the first level is 48.391 and down to the bottom 0.203. So we did get the sort that we asked for. Let's take a look at our first chart. We're going to look at Nordstrom. Downtrend, downtrend, downtrend. Look at all these red arrows that show where price moved up to the demand line, took a hard fall 4 times, finally to an underthrow, horizontal structure, back out, lower volume, less volatile. Very important features for the Wyckoff world. What do you say, Professor?
Well, this is really an interesting chart because these jamming up into the top of the channel is all occurring in the context of a negative relative strength. And so this is basically an attempt to gin up interest in the stock by institutions that want, or large interests, let's say, that want to sell the stock on a scale down. And so you can see this is in their playbook: just jam it up, and then sell it, jam it up, sell it, jam it up. And now you have the completion, or at least for the moment, of a downtrend with this throw under range bound condition. So it's now acting differently than it did throughout any of these prior periods, where the relative strength is showing a new characteristic where it's above its moving average, it's living above there, and it's moving up into the downtrending trend channel. And so this is really an important place because the 200-day moving average is where it's resting right now. And if it can get above that and get above the downtrend, that will be a very constructive action. And then also this is coming with the relative strength trying to turn up and with very low ATR. And so the ATR could very well start to jump as it's jumping through here, if it can. So really a great case study. And now this looks like a completed cause for some kind of a base structure, point and figure, at least a swing trading count for higher prices potentially. And so especially with this jump up and out, look at the characteristic change here. This jump here occurs with a very shallow backup where all the prior jumps resulted in important selling. So this is a positive constructive event. John?
Absolutely, and look at how we did achieve our scan requests. Here we have lower volatility, rising relative strength, and it's hard to see, but the volume has contracted too. So the number of transactions, the range of those transactions, all different. And it signals a change of character, which is why Wyckofffians, we really expect something breaks out, holds higher level on decreasing volume. We expect that that is going to be productive for future price action.
And also, I'd like to make the point as we go here and through the rest of these stocks, is that when you complete some kind of a minor or major accumulation, volatility by nature in a Wyckoff accumulation structure is going to have diminished volatility. And you can see that occurring throughout in this example here. And so lower and lower and lower throughout as it's starting to work its way into an uptrend.
Absolutely. Our next slide is very interesting also. This TEGNA Inc., not even really familiar with it, but look at how fantastic we have horizontal structure, breakout, holding above prior resistance, now support, lower volume, lower ATR, and look at that, those moving averages of both OBV and price just taking off incredibly. So we did not ask for this position, but we asked for the character of price when it's in this position. That's a very important scanning principle, is that we can scan without reference to price, but merely on the basis of the character of price. What are your thoughts, Professor?
Well, we have something that appears to be a reaccumulation after an uptrend. And this reaccumulation now has had an important event where it's jumped. And this jump here then goes to this prior resistance zone and lives up here now and makes another local reaccumulation, which is now up and out through these prior resistance zones. And so this is a completely different picture than the last one we looked at, but we're getting a very similar characteristic in these very important indicators, and the relative strength is quite positive.
And value play, 10.5 PE, 1.69 on the yield, very interesting characteristics combined with some value attributes. That's our next stock, Dollar Tree, very, very interesting. What do you see here, Professor?
Well, you've broken out of this prior resistance area, so it's a good breakout. Often breakouts occur like this, where then you go into some kind of a consolidation. It's range bound in here, but it's range bound above the prior resistance zone. Now you have all the characteristics you're scanning for occurring, and you have a positive ATR, positive relative strength, and very low volatility as it's just resting after a minor backing up action. So this looks very constructive to me, John.
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, we ask for the characteristics of price, which are typical of this type of position in the world of Wyckoff, of backing up after a breakout, and we got it. Very, very interesting. Our next stock, Caterpillar, big name out there, coming out of a tough period. I'm a cat owner myself, and I like what I see here. What do you think, Professor?
Well, classic reaccumulation type structure. This has been a really strong stock in this prior period, this prior uptrend here. And now look at the classic reaccumulation characteristics with a spring at the end. So that's very interesting because we have relative strength trying to finish a base over here. The spring, it goes back below, but look at the characteristic of a change of behavior here, where all of a sudden it starts to very solidly march to the north here in an upward trend, and it's marching up through prior resistance levels very fast and very steadily. But look at the volatility dropping as it's doing that. So this is a really interesting combination of things. And now we have the benefit of rising OBV, rising relative strength. John, what do you think?
Very interesting. Very interesting. I'm a happy camper if this keeps going up, because it's been a little tough to own it the past few months.
Well, and that's all part of the frustration of a reaccumulation. It's what they do. So that's a good point. Okay.
Well, we've got the will of a white coffee and working for us here. So
that's right. And
another very interesting stock.
Go ahead.
Molina Healthcare. Healthcare provider has been an interesting group of late. Look at the characteristics here. Solid breakout. We had a 15 million share, approximately 15 million share day back in March, and yet price did not go through the floor on that. Still rising relative strength, volatility down, OBV up, volume down. It's hard to see with that big day there, but volume down a little bit. So the number of transactions, the range of those transactions, all contracting while holding a higher price level. One of the key features of backing up action. Your thoughts, Professor?
Well, I love the OBV in a rising upward trend. Relative strength has been very constructive here throughout. The moving average just keeps heading north, and most of the time the relative strength is living above that, and you have a cause built for a new reaccumulation. The upward trending channel also is doing a good job of containing the corrections on the way up with a little bit of a spring right here. So that's really interesting in a local reaccumulation sense.
There may be something to this ATR business. What do you think?
Well, ATR is really very valuable. We use it, as you all know, in the creating scaling for point and figure. And it works so well for that. It's a very powerful tool. So to use it here and also to focus on high volatility, low volatility is very powerful. So we have about 30 seconds left. So tell us about the Mike Wyckoff market report.
Scanning based report. A lot of these concepts are involved in that report. So you have an opportunity to work directly with scan results there, and check that out over at Wyckoff Analytics. Our friends over at Wyckoff Analytics, great people, a lot of free material for you there. And I think that's all we have for today.
Beautiful job. Thank you, John. And we'll see you next time on Your Daily 5.
Thanks, Professor.
Hey guys, Dave Keller here with StockCharts.com. Thanks so much for watching our video. If you enjoyed it, and we hope you did, hit the like button right below. Also, we have so much new content every day. Consider subscribing to the channel. Just hit the subscribe button in the video or right below. Thanks for watching. Stay safe. Have a fantastic day.